Rap music is a peculiar art form in that, for all its importance as literally the 20th and the 21st century's living form of contemporary poetry, it exists within the context of music and pop culture. And what I feel that has done is totally diminished rap's position as an art. When you say to people you like rap, they just think of the aesthetic that rappers have used to sell themselves to capitalism. The bling bling, the hyper masculinity, the objectification of and sexualization of women. They think of all the cliches, the gold teeth. Indeed, these cliches only exist because capitalism has transformed the once politically pivotal tradition of rap into fodder to give the impression of a wild, primal, hedonistic blackness. Therefore, it is so refreshing when rappers choose to rap in ways that display the fact that primarily what they're doing is an insurrection for language. What they're doing is a transformation of the way people perceive communication. What they're doing is a conversation with the world from the particular position that they're in, shared through the experiences of a poetic angst. And the next artist is somebody who epitomizes that for me. Coming from Chicago, but based in New York City, the mecca of hip-hop culture, Elyahreev Immortal is a black radical artist whose activism is rooted in the spiritual work of the Hebrew community. He comes from an ideology that presents itself as the alternative in a dying world. So as a result, his music carries to it a salvational tone that seeks to teach, and thus it positions Elyahreev as the one who is given the task to relay the message that some would call social transformation, some would call revolution, and I think in the steed of what Elyahreev comes from, many would call righteousness. Now, his latest project, Siege of the Surge 4, yeah, it's the fourth one, is part of a series that dialogues itself as an ongoing conversation between Elyahreev and this godforsaken world. It's a man navigating his own spiritual path and letting us in through each and every detail of what he is going through. And the fourth epistle of this moment concludes in what is defined as childish dominion. That's literally the subtitle of the project, Siege of the Surge 4, Childish Dominion. Now, what childish dominion means to me as I listen to this project is the man is in a space where he considers what parts of his character are the stumbling block that prevents him from truly becoming a man, and that still keeps him in the position of being a boy child. And this is a very important question in a world where masculinity guises itself in ways that have become increasingly destructive towards women, society, culture at large, the environment. We live in an era where we're more familiar with men as the bad guy because undoubtedly masculinity is not setting a consistently positive example for the world, particularly when we talk about black men. Black men are depicted as animals, as gangsters, as pimps, as a whole lot of threatening things. But when a black man comes into the fore and tries to reveal a side that is more vulnerable, a side that connects with one's inner longing for peace and harmony, it's not given that much support for obvious reasons. It just isn't sexy, just isn't fashionable. So Elyahreev takes this alternative path, as it were, and chooses to go deep diving into this dialogue on his own masculinity and shares it with us. Now sonically, Seas of the Surge 4 feels like a cross between a schizophrenic free jazz album that went to soul for guidance and found itself in the place where contemporary trap drums could filter in the modern sound. What I mean by that is, it's not what you would call boom bap, it isn't what you'd call jazz rap. It's a very interesting thing in between. As a matter of fact, a lot of the beats here are stripped bare in a way where the emptiness opens up enough room for Elyahreev's stream of consciousness, straightforward, ragged, jagged delivery to have ample room to breathe. His rapping style is not metrical, and by that I mean Elyahreev doesn't have the classical pattern of an MC whose rhymes really shift according to the tempo and the drum pattern of the beat. He raps everywhere. He's in every pocket. He raps with the fervor of an angry, passionate slam poet, but with more zeal, with a little bit more flair, with a voice that carries a kind of sharp edge to it. And he's able to do this with an imaginative palette that makes this free-form rap incredibly captivating. I mean, think peak 90s Pharoah Monch sprinkled with a little bit of Saul Williams, and add the appeal of a wild Kendrick Lamar on a good day. And this is what you get when Elyahreev comes as an MC. Definitely not for those who appreciate simple, formulaic rap, because it is further from anything that resembles that. These aren't songs you're able to digest and sing along to. Matter of fact, it is questionable whether or not these are even songs. I think the idea of what constitutes a song is also an interesting question. Is a song something which follows a clean bridge into a chorus and is made to be digestible and accessible? Or is a song simply a creative idea expressed within a certain time duration on a musical scope? I think songwriting, song making pretty much filters into the former, whereas music and art is beyond the genre of song. Songs are simply one way to appreciate music. Music is played, done, expressed in contexts that are too free to be placed into the rigid dimensions of today's songwriting. And I think for that, there's an alternative category that I occasionally like to use, and that's musical pieces. These are a collection of musical pieces which form a lyrical maze, and they elaborate into corners where Elyahreev chooses to neglect flow in order to feel spirit. And he does it in a way that is so illustrious that you feel like you are listening to an audio book. Now, the intro, Let the Horns Blow, is a prime example of what I mean when I say the sound scope of this project is very much an echo of jazz that sits on the palette of soul. When I say soul, I'm talking about the kind of music that is there to elicit composure, reflection, and a sense of heartbreak. Because Elyahreev here really pours his heart out. A lot of these songs wander around the theme of a man in a moment of crisis, of trying to find love, practically speaking, trying to find a partner to potentially being married to, reflecting on past relationships, looking at his own errors, but really just looking at what legacy he is possibly leaving for himself as a man who's well into his 40s, going into the prime of his life where he's enjoying himself yet still has some regrets, while still trying to figure out whether or not he will end up with the classical nuclear family, or with a family in general. And I think he does this through moments that feel suspenseful and are contrasted by a beautiful entrance into poetry, because essentially that's what this is. It's rap as spoken word poetry. And I think this is what I mean when I say it is incredibly interesting and powerful when rappers choose to set aside the pressure to create easy formulaic songs for speaking to the innovation and the art of rap. So this album continues, and these moments of intimacy penetrate through this kind of somber tone. A lot of it is a little bit gloomy because he's really reflecting on more of where he has gone wrong possibly, and he's able to take it to a place where a horizon is there. And the horizon presents itself as a question. So sonically, it doesn't live in a place that's too broad. Songs like Baby, which feels like a crying, bellowing interlude, are really an introduction into Elyahreev's explorative side, and they show that the one aspect that he was really focused on experimenting here was his vocal projection and his creative ideas. So as a result, I for one think that he could have also taken himself further by employing this free flow style to beats that have a little bit more dynamic and take him to different places. But the benefit in this project is that as small as the world that Elyahreev inhabits is sonically, he's able to build a vast universe in a single seed by having lyrics which sometimes may be a bit convoluted and need you to decode, but are nonetheless a journey into penmanship and incredible wordplay. And I think this album serves as an example for rappers who really just want to rap for rap's sake, to tell their own unique stories using this important form of modern day poetry. If I'm to judge and to measure and to ultimately give this project a rating, from a project that does have the ambitions to compete with where lyricism is today, I definitely say it sits comfortably in the 6.5 to 7 mark, because sonically it's able to nestle itself with refreshing, interesting ideas and an approach to rap. Elyahreev is really doing things in a way that sounds familiar, but also rife with a lot of interesting new tones and cadences that he has the bravery to play with. Because a lot of these cadences, again, could literally be stripped bare, rapped a cappella, and the beat kind of takes a backdrop to a point where sometimes he does tend to over-rap, where the songs themselves kind of, or the musical pieces, drown in the dexterity and the verbosity of the raps. Like, he's saying a lot, and sometimes he says a little too much, and there are moments where it could have been stripped down in a way that is more evenly distributed, but again, that's not the point. So the 7 out of 10 rating for me is more of a reflection of the fact that the lyricism is able to live and still find a place to feel relevant in an era right now that feels increasingly neglectful of the importance of rap as an art form. Ultimately, I want to use this as an opportunity to say, yeah, this is an American artist, or this is an African artist from the Americas. And the reason why this project is so important to review is that as the headspace evolves and grows, the community of Africans across the world are going to be very important in this new diaspora of creative expression. How we are telling our stories as we navigate with culture, as we navigate with capitalism, is very important, and is something we champion in the headspace to archive and to document. And since the spirit of hip-hop was really the spirit of innovation, this review is essential because Elyahreev is going to be coming to South Africa, where he'll be hitting different provinces, and I think for audiences to be able to see how Africans in the Americas are trying to connect with us as much as we're trying to connect with them, and therefore there's a necessity for a true, sincere dialogue so that the experiences of blackness can find themselves in a place where action and transformation is possible. My name is VJ, the brother from the ancient mother. If you haven't subscribed, I was calling.